I like the reminders, by the way.
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't get one. So yeah. Yeah, I'd really recommend, like, when that email goes out, just because I'm the same way. I get distracted and I have like a million other things going on. Just throw it on the calendar, you know? So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to get into it. So I talked about wanting to go into the value proposition. One of the hardest things for agents right now is when we start out, we can talk to people just fine. If you can't talk to people, it's tough business. I don't know if real estate is the right one if you don't like people or don't want to talk to them. But so typically we do okay with that. And we had a good discussion this morning in scripting where I find there can be some nervousness or not knowing how to lead people forward is when it gets down to scheduling the appointment. Like, why would they meet with me? And how do I, like, it can be a thing of beauty where I find out what's important to them. And then I give them like, oh, well, this is exactly why we need to meet. And then of course they want to move forward. Usually if I don't have something set up to be able to explain the why part, I tend to over talk. So I say too much. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And sometimes it's when I lack confidence or I just don't know how to word things. And because I don't know how to word it or the reason to meet with me, I make it like 4 to 5 sentences when it could only be 1 sentence. And have you guys been in a situation before where someone's presenting something to you and the longer they're talking, they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, this person is trying to sell me. Like, it literally removes trust and it shows lack of confidence on the other side. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like an overcompensation almost.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to coddle me too much. Yeah. They're like, it's okay. And I'm like, this is a trap, isn't it? This is a trap. And I don't want to talk to them just because they're talking too much. And maybe they do want to help me, but it just doesn't sound like it. So I want to help clarify things for you guys today through what is it that we do and how do I effectively communicate that to people? Okay. One thing that's very interesting to me is statistics I see. I'm going to talk about sellers a lot, but also buyers. But most statistics I see nationally, the NAR, National Association of Realtors, in 2019, one statistic they had was with sellers, what do you look for in an agent and what's most important to you in an agent? And I don't have that pie chart here in front of me right now, but what's interesting is I'm telling you, looking at it, it's maybe the majority is help me find, or this is with buyers, someone I can trust, price my home correctly, find buyers. That's basically what they think agents do. And would you say in this market right now, that's kind of like the general idea is an agent basically finds a buyer. I could do that myself. I don't know why I need an agent. What else does an agent do? They, what else do you guys hear from people? Find me a buyer from a seller standpoint. What do you think? What does the public think?
I think they just think sometimes like you just post an ad like it's like some KSL thing, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, yeah. The caveman can do it. Yeah. So they put an ad out there. What else? What else do you guys think the general public sees? And this is a great conversation to have because based on what the public thinks, they think we're really overpaid right now. And there are companies that we know of that are creating that belief out there, right? That all agents do the same things. We don't do very much, so we aren't worth 3%, right?
Yeah, so, and like from the seller standpoint, there, especially in this market, they just think, you know, why do I need you there if everyone's going to flock to it? So yeah, that's kind of what, from what they've seen at least, you know, just from outside looking in.
Yeah, I can do an estimate online. I can go on Zillow, plug in some numbers, find out what my home is worth. I can look at my neighbor's house down the street. What did that sell for? Yeah, I'm good. I don't really need an agent. So this is why it's absolutely important that we lead people, not manipulate them, but lead them through understanding there's a lot more to this than they thought. I keep going back to this example. I'm sure a couple of you have heard it 4 times now, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I remember trying to put sprinklers in my yard, and I went online, I YouTubed it, like how to install in-ground sprinklers. I saw like a couple people that put a PDF online. I was looking at their diagrams. I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm pretty good. I think I can do this. I'm gonna bring some friends over. I'm gonna bring lunch, food, stuff like that. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be good. And long story short, I had an idea of even the parts I wanted. I went to Home Depot. They have me go to the sprinkler aisle. Have you guys been in the sprinkler aisle of Home Depot? No? No one? Someone help me out. I'm the only one that suffered through this.
Unfortunately, I'm looking forward to suffering through this.
Hello, your agents and Home Depot. Home is part of the business name. So Cindy, I know you've been to Home Depot a lot. You have some projects going. So anyway, so going to Home Depot, they direct you to the sprinkler aisle. There's an aisle, guys. It's not like a part of an aisle. You go there and you know how tall these shelves are. It's like, I swear, it seems like it's 20 feet high, and it's an entire aisle of parts, washers, valves, piping, everything, regulators, pressure regulators, all kinds of stuff. So I get into the aisle, and of course I have my idea. I have stuff written out, and I'm kind of like, and someone asked me right off the bat if I need help. I'm like, no, I don't need help. 5 minutes later, I'm like, I need some help because I couldn't find anything. And I remember this girl comes around the corner. She's so tiny, and has her orange apron on, and she starts asking me questions. And she's like, okay, so what are you looking to do? Well, I'm installing sprinklers in my yard. She starts asking me questions about the project, what type of sprinkler heads I want, things like that. She starts, of course, throwing out a few words and definitions and names I've never heard of before, like pressure regulator, things like that. Do you think pretty soon I started to realize that I might be a little in over my head? Yeah. So I started out with this idea based on my own research that I knew everything that was required. But once I show up and there's someone who knows what they're talking about and knew to ask me the right questions, I learned pretty quickly that I did not know. So this really starts with one thing. This is what it really boils down to with each of us. What plans do we have in place to develop our own skill set and knowledge to become a master of the business? Like, am I able to put on my metaphorically real estate apron, orange apron, and once I encounter someone, I know to ask questions around their process and opportunities to be able to list their home, right? Have you done this? Are you familiar with this? Things like that, which I feel that most of us are. The second part is, how do I communicate to people what's needed? I can tell you by the time I was done talking to this girl and asking questions, and I probably said like 3 or 4 times, I don't know what you just said. I don't know what that means. I definitely turned into, well, do you guys do contracting services here? Like, is there someone I can talk to just do it for me? I don't have the time or energy for this, right? So I had this belief going into it, but someone through asking questions and having a knowledge of the business was helped me see the light, right? But it wasn't from the side of, she didn't show up and say, no, you need a contractor. You need to pay these guys to do the work for you. Trust me, just pay them to do the work. I would likely resist, right? I'd likely say, no, I don't think so. Like, I'll talk to someone else. One thing I want to point out here is many times we want to lead with, and we have all the right intentions. We want to lead with, this is what you should do, but people haven't given us permission to lead yet. And that is what we're scripting this week and what we'll go through tomorrow at 5:30, okay? Through objection handling and getting them to the point where they'll allow us to lead. What I wanted to share when it comes to the value proposition is, once we get to the part where we can share with them what it is that we do. Now, if you guys have a pen and paper there, I'd highly recommend you write this down. But from what I've seen, I call these earn the right statements, earning the right to do business with someone, okay? And these are 4 categories where we start to redefine to the general public what it is that we do. Here's another thing I want to tell you. There is great opportunity when you share, when you're just different, when you share something new that people have not heard before. We've already established that most people think agents only do A, B, and C. So there's actually great opportunity if you're that one person that effectively comes in and says, I do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. I'll stop. So we need to know what it is that we're doing, and again, effectively communicate what that is. And that creates opportunity. That's why there's a lot of opportunity in this market right now, guys. Okay. So, so those 4 categories start with first, consult and advise. Okay. And I'm going to break these down in more detail here in just a moment. Okay. Consult and advise is one. The next category where we provide value is we market and expose. The third is we negotiate. And the 4th area of value is we manage the transaction. Okay. I have found in my own experience and also in other agents' experiences, those that I've mentored and helped, typically someone will have a need in 1 to 2 of those areas. Usually it's no more than 2. Sometimes it's maybe 3 of those areas we share our value proposition with, but usually it's at least 1 to 2. And a perfect example of that is, Marie, I'm not sure if you heard this the other day, but there's an area of business that a lot of agents will turn to called expired listings. And what that is someone said for a year, I'm going to work with this agent, put my home on the MLS on the market. And then after, a year, if that home hasn't sold yet, that agreement with the agent has expired and it comes off the MLS and it's no longer showing as available or ready to buy. So agents can see these listings that come off the market. To be honest, it doesn't happen as often now just because there's so much buyer demand in our market. But again, this is just an example. So if someone comes in and says, yeah, I noticed your home came off the market. Are you still open to selling it? I find out that they are open to putting it on the market, but they've been through a lot of turmoil and frustration through having their home on the market for a year and it not selling in multiple showings. And through asking questions, I start to realize that, and this is one area of business that I pursued a lot in the other market, like a few years back, but I started to realize that there was a common theme of people don't know why their home didn't sell. They had no clue. They had it on the market. The agent, wasn't exactly there to explain why. And when I ask questions, I'm able to figure that part out. And then based off of that, in those 4 categories, which area do you think is the biggest need for that seller or that homeowner that I can insert my value proposition? Which of those 4 areas do you think would be most applicable to this person and their needs? Hey, Joyce. Is your kid okay, Joyce?
Hi guys. Yeah, he's
Good.
okay.
Yeah.
Last week was an ankle. This week was an eyeball. Yeah, but he's good.
So I was going into, Joyce, just catching you up here. If you're able to write this down, we're talking about the value proposition today and how to form a strong one, a compelling value proposition. I spoke through 4 categories. There's earning the right to do business with someone. There's consult and advise, market and expose, negotiate, and manage the transaction. So I just posed the question with someone that is basically an expired listing for a homeowner. They don't know why their home didn't sell. And they're a little bit frustrated that it was on the market for an entire year and didn't sell without having answers. Which of those 4 categories do you think would be of most interest to that homeowner?
Consult and advise.
Why is that?
Because obviously they did not, their previous agent didn't advise them of anything that was going on, any of the changes, any of the developments going on with it.
Didn't communicate with them, right?
Yeah.
There are other situations. Go ahead. Someone gonna say something?
The 4 again?
Mm-hmm. So those 4 areas that I see where we provide value and can build a value proposition around them is 1, consult and advise, 2, market and expose, 3, negotiate, and 4, manage the transaction.
Okay.
One thing I want to ask those, well, congratulations, Joyce is under contract with the buyer. So,
Well, I have a story for that though. Like we backed
okay.
out. We backed out because I was talking to Cindy last night, and it was funny that you guys discussed about how important it is to, you know, have them see the property. So they wanted it because they were out of town and they were gonna, you know, they were accepting offers and stuff like that. So I needed to go see it. So I was using my FaceTime to go through the tour. So after they accepted the offer, then I asked if we could just do a walkthrough since we were back in town. So after we did that second walkthrough, and then they're like, oh, it doesn't look as big as we thought it was. So anyways.
Well, they have a taste for going under contract. So I'm sure
right.
It's like the shark with blood in the water. I'm
yeah,
sure
but it was fun. It was crazy that we went through the walkthrough. I could see my buyer was struggling with it. Like she wasn't really, like I could just see almost tears coming. I was like, I don't know if I want to live here.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out, you know? So, but yeah.
Connor had a buyer under contract that backed out too for different reasons, but
it's
you'll
fun.
get there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good. Well, I wanted to go through just basically the example of really the work starts most of the time when you go under contract, right? There's the negotiation, there's managing the transaction, making sure we meet deadlines. I had to negotiate with another agent today on a listing, right? And so that's a lot of times where the real work starts. So yeah, we're going to start to break down each of those 4 areas. And I'm going to have homework for you guys. I highly, highly, highly recommend taking some time to think through this. A lot of times in this business, we get so busy, we don't take time to just stop and evaluate what we can do to differentiate ourselves and how we can grow our businesses. So I will have some homework for you guys to do to put things together going into next week, okay? So here's I'll go into the homework right now. Within those 4 areas, let's discuss this as a group, but I would like you guys to define based on actions what we would do or how we would say it, because I can't exactly just say, hey, do you want to go with, and this is how most agents sound, okay? They're going to say one of 2 things. I've been in the business this long. I've seen everything. I know exactly what people are looking for. I've done these many transactions. That doesn't exactly speak to people, okay? That's the agent just beating their chest, talking about how great they are. Maybe it's because I'm from the Midwest, but I can't stand it when people have to talk about how great they are to get business, okay? The other thing that they'll do is they'll just say, well, this is also going into how great they are, but without communicating things the right way, they say, I am just the best consultant and advisor you've ever seen. Trust me. I have this certification that I can advise the pants off of people. Or like, I am just the most amazing consultant and advisor, okay? Trust me. When it comes to negotiating, I am such a good negotiator. That's why you choose me. I manage transactions. If there's a scale of 1 to 10, an 11. I am such a good manager of transactions, okay? That's the language of a lot of people. Here's the benefit for you guys in our market and where you can differentiate yourselves. Don't talk about how great you are. Tell them what you're going to do. And they're going to be able to connect the dots and see firsthand within your plan how great you are, okay? So that's what we're going to work through now over the next few minutes, is defining what are the actions I take. Don't talk about getting the home sold. Tell them what you're going to do to get the home sold, okay? And be specific about it. So let's work through this together. what is a way on that first statement, and we're just going to use a couple of examples, when I consult and advise, let's first define like situations where I may consult and advise with my clients. When are some times or situations when I consult and advise with them? What do you guys think?
Maybe around, I mean, it's their choice. They're in control what they can price their home. But if it's some outrageous price, you know, that's just going to sit there.
Yeah. I love it. Pricing the home correctly. That's definitely an area we consult and advise with them. Anything else? What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, and in the same aspect, of course, on the buyer side, their budget as well, trying to make sure that they have a realistic understanding, and also getting a gauge of that risk tolerance, and being able to go from there.
Holy cow! So you went into a couple of things, right? So one, you said risk tolerance. Is it important to understand the REPC? Yeah. So consult and advise with them on the paperwork.
Exactly.
Here's how to fill it out to make sure you don't fill it out the wrong way and put yourself in some really hot water, right?
Yep.
Like, I didn't know if I said no on buyer due diligence contingency that, I was in trouble, right? So being able to walk them through all of the conditions and how to win out with an offer, especially with a buyer. I would consult and advise with my sellers around, you are going to get a lot of people coming through wanting to see your home. What times are you wanting to black out for showings? And this is how we're going to do all of this. So I'm consulting and advising with them through the listing process. This is when the sign's going to be in the yard. This is when this is going to happen. So I share with them a timeline. Great. So
even the getting them ready for the photos too, getting them that checklist and advising what's the best way to go about that. So
are you guys hearing in this? Like, the more we start to go through this, we're putting myself into that same situation, being in the sprinkler aisle in Home Depot. Like, oh, listing photos. Yeah, that's right. So I shouldn't do it with my phone. Oh, okay. What about a sign? Where do I get a sign? I can make one, right? I can get poster boards. No. Oh, okay. So you guys are seeing where we're going with this. What's another way in which we consult and advise with people?
Lately, I've been using using comps to help them see like how they can maximize their money if they were to decide on a house amongst many others. And also on the seller side, just to kind of help them list their house at whatever price by guiding them through a market analysis report and stuff. So
so not only pricing it the right way, but knowing the market. Like, I'll consult and advise with them through the market. What are buyers saying right now? What buyers would be most, not the window shoppers, but the right buyers for our home, right? There's a couple of areas for me. Once the home is on the market, I tell them I will be reaching out to you on a weekly basis at least. And at that time, I'm going to walk you through and share with you exactly what the buyers are saying as they come through the property when it comes to your home. And then we'll be able to make adjustments to the market based on what those buyers and their agents are saying about your property. So this is how I'll consult. This is what I'm going to consult with you about, right? I hope you guys are writing down some of these things. Let's go into market and expose. What are some things we do around marketing and exposing the property?
Well, of course, we, get it ready on the MLS and things like that. But then also a big thing that, and we were even talking about it earlier today too, is notifying people in the neighborhood of an open house. Trying to, expose that and say, hey, we have an open house or whatever coming up. Doing the Mojo call list, I'm sure helps to expose it. So things like that. So
I love it. So and this is, I don't just do an open house, but I do an exclusive preview for people, right? And I have a plan or strategies around bringing as many people as possible, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but Roseanne will set up a landing page for you.
Yeah, the landing
so
page.
That I know when we advertise an open house or a listing online on social media, a lot of times we'll just use the MLS or another site, that site is getting that person's information to market to them. I don't know if you knew that. Like the MLS, they go on there and they may look on the MLS. The MLS doesn't really do that as much, but they see it and that's it. Roseanne will set up a landing page for you where you have a URL and it directs them to that landing page for information, and we're able to track who's visiting it. And if they're interested in coming, they can pre-register. Wouldn't that be cool to have a lot of people pre-register where we have their information to follow up with them after they come through? Awesome. So what's another thing we do to market and expose the property?
Could it be like taking good pictures? Like I had a realtor that came to my house and his wife took the pictures and they were awful. And he listed the house with those pictures.
Yeah. So we have a professional listing photographer. Nick knows this, but we have a professional photographer. All you do is you say, Roseanne, I need a photographer to come out this day. And Roseanne books it for you and we pay for it and all that good stuff. So yeah, they'll come out and they edit the pictures, get it back to you the next day. So yeah, prepping the home. So making sure we put the best foot forward, look at the home through the eyes of a buyer. I would recommend making these changes. I remember within our home or another home we just sold is I made recommendations to the sellers. Like, I know this isn't your living like setup when it came to living room furniture, but I was like, I'd recommend moving this couch back, move this end table over there. Let's take away this second coffee table. It's going to look like there's more space. And then having a listing photographer, it's great. So marketing, exposing the property the right way, preparing it. Anything else?
I just have a question with what you just said, Chris, about like moving furniture around. Do you learn that? Do you get someone that tells you how do you?
It is kind of something over time you learn, but I have a feeling, Marie, you'll go into some homes and you'll know right away. Like they'll have all the furniture in the center of the room and it's hard to move around. And then you make a suggestion. I'd recommend moving the furniture back so it looks more open, you know, things like that. But I am by no means a professional, trust me. So, but yeah, the more you do it, but I have a deep feeling that like once you see the properties, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'd recommend doing this, recommend doing that. It's kind of just logic, but good question. A couple things. This is one thing I want to point out to you guys. Sometimes we're so used to doing the same things other agents do, we forget that this is a big deal to other people. So I talked about this earlier this morning. I could tell someone, hey, we have an exclusive tool among real estate agents, or I have access to this, where when I put the notification online that your home is on the market, every agent around the area is going to see that your home came on the market. It's also automatically going to populate to multiple sites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, like every site out there. So it's going to be everywhere. And they're like, wow, that's great. And another agent would say, that's the MLS. Of course we all do that. Like, you know what I mean? But it's about like how you share what it is that you do for people, right? And that other agent, I've been on the other side before. That was before real estate, and I learned it the hard way. I had a better product in my business than other places, but because I just said like, oh, and our product has this and this, and it's better than most other places, they actually started to look at other places because I introduced it that way. But once I decided to stop talking about competition and just say why our product was so great and explain it better, they're like, I'm sold. We're only using your product, right? So how are you explaining some of the things we do? That may seem obvious, but it's not obvious to homeowners. We also have like a very strong network of agents within Keller Williams, right? So we have our website on, just listed properties through Keller Williams that you can put it up there. And we share between our main offices what homes are coming on the market. So you can tell them like, I have a very strong agent network very close to me of people that will see your home. Another thing that I tell people, I tell them leading up to them signing paperwork as an agreement to work with me. I say, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to door knock 5 doors to the left, 5 doors to the right, 10 doors across the street, and let them know about the most amazing home coming on market. That way they let their friends and family know. I don't know if you guys realize this, but a large percentage of homes that sell, it's because the neighbors talk to their nephew or family member or friend and say, a home's coming on the market, you better hurry and put an offer in. So that happens a lot of times. And I explain that to people, okay? But hopefully you guys are hearing, we're identifying actions and what it is that we do. And that's how I'm sharing that I do a great job marketing, exposing the property, right? Negotiation. I know this has taken some time, but hopefully this is really beneficial to you guys to write down ideas. Negotiation. What type of things, what kind of situations might we find ourselves in on the negotiation side?
The closing, or
Like-
getting to the closing with the repsy, as far as they're gonna leave this in the house, but they want to take this.
Okay, so negotiating with the buyer, or
Yeah.
if you're on the buy side, negotiating with the seller on their behalf to make sure you don't give away the farm, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's good. Yeah. So going under contract and even after going under contracts, any other place we may negotiate or show negotiation skills?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure, especially now, there's a lot of negotiation that can go around the possible lease back or like the earnest money and things like that, and helping your clients understand what that means. I mean, I even have a coworker at the post office who's selling his home with a different agent, and I was explaining earnest money, and he's like, I have no idea what that is. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, your agent's dropping the ball.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you should know what that is. You know?
Yeah.
So he was asking me about it, and I was kind of giving him a value proposition in that way. Just like, remember this for the next time.
You're better than me. I'm kind of a jerk, and I'm like, hey, you signed with them. I can't overstep. I would recommend asking them about this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me go back to them.
I'm like, I was being nice.
Yeah. You're better than me. So that goes back to what you guys were saying before. What I think you said, Nate, is understanding the repsy and the paperwork. I explain to people, and the way I do it is I say, I future pace and I help them see that they're going to list their home with me. So I put it in these words. I'm like, once you list your home with me and we start seeing offers come in, you're going to be absolutely shocked at how badly people fill out the offer and the paperwork. And I explain to them, I have a very extensive understanding. I consistently go to classes around new paperwork and documentation going out there, because I know without a doubt that gives me an upper hand in negotiations with other agents. And I've given them examples before. I've given you guys examples. What is it? The repsy changed a little bit recently. I think it's 1.4, water shares, water rights. With builders, developers that I've worked with, when we would find areas to build in, I would always put the offer out there for them. And the repsy says all water shares and water rights are included. I'm telling you guys, like, it's probably 70% of the time. And it's kind of funny when I talk to agents representing the sellers of the land and the areas that we're buying properties, so we can do a new PUD or development. They almost always come back a few weeks later, and they're like, okay, so what are we doing with water shares and water rights? Do you want us to work up a bill of sale, or do you want me to do an addendum? And then I'm like, actually, it's ours. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it says clearly in 1.4, like, it's included in the sale. They're ours. And this is sometimes with multiple shares and rights, it's like 15, 20 grand worth of water shares and rights, with these individuals. So that's a soundbite that you can use. Or, I mean, once you go through, Nick, you're going to see this, all of you, through the situation of listing a home, when you can tell them, like, you would be shocked with how bad the offers look at times. That gives me an upper hand to negotiate on your behalf, that I know the ins and outs, right? And to protect you.
Christie's, I mean, she hated that offer that ended up falling through. So.
Yeah, for sure. So that's an important thing to clarify. And then lastly, manage the transaction. what are some things we do? I realize some of you may not have gone under contract and worked one to the finish line just yet, but what do we do when we manage the transaction? What do you guys think? What goes into that?
I think I has a lot. I mean, I think a lot we need to pay attention to the deadlines, right? That's a big part of it, I think, or else the transaction will fall through just because of missed deadlines.
Totally. Yeah.
And
I love that one. Anything else?
Just facilitating maybe like inspections and all those kinds of things. Just making sure that every step of the way after you're under contract is followed through and communicated.
That's great. That's great. Can you guys think of any other specifics around it? Value around managing the transaction?
Well, I think, the appraisal part is big too now. We got to make sure that we're trying to consider what the appraisal is going to come in at and if that's going to make or break it.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the highest offer, it's making sure that they can pay us, right? Yeah. So managing that part. One thing I would definitely use is you as an agent, you're the quarterback through this experience. So there's multiple people involved, right? There's if you're on the listing side, the buyer's agent, lender, both title companies, if you're using different title companies, buyer's title company, our title company, there's the deadlines you guys talked about. One thing that's important to be able to bring to the table on our side is agents have so much to do through this process and making sure things move smoothly. It's important that you have the right team behind you, right? So I'll explain to them, I have someone that their sole function is making sure that we're hitting deadlines and we have all the paperwork in and we're on time and paperwork is done correctly. It's not to say I can't do it. However, I'm overseeing the entire transaction. So talk about your transaction coordinator. I have people that do these things better than I do in place to ensure that we get to the finish line and don't have any stupid hiccups that others might go through, right? So here's the homework I want to give you guys. So we've gone through some examples of different areas within each of those categories of where we provide value. What I would like you guys to do is write down specifically what those actions are and do it in layman's terms. Don't make it so complicated and just sound so smart. A lot of times I don't like smart people that try and sound smart. I like smart people, as long as I don't feel stupid, but which happens a lot, but just kidding. So, but I like it when someone knows things well enough that they can put it in terms that I can understand. And it's more applicable. Have you guys been in a situation where someone's talk, and you're just glazing over? You're like, when are we going to be done with this, right? So going back to that, I want you to look at each of those categories and at least have 2 actions that are your strengths and specific to you that you do in those areas, okay? And those actions should be specific enough that once you share that, you can then say how this benefits you is ... There's a secret to selling or people seeing value in things. You need to talk about the feature and then the benefit every time. It's going to sound like you're being repetitive, but I'm telling you, you can put it in different ways, but this is where it's going to hit home for people because they're going to feel like you're providing value specific to their needs. So as an example, it's going to sound like we gave that expired listing example before, right? With the homeowners. So when it comes to consult and advise, I say, man, I'm so sorry you're going through that whole process not knowing what's going on. I would feel very frustrated myself. Can I share with you something that I do to help relieve people through that process where they're in the know? And if they say yes, I say, what I do is at a predetermined time, every week, and if necessary, twice a week, I'll reach out to you and let you know exactly how many people have come through the property. In the meantime, I'm also reaching out to each of the agents and the buyers to get their feedback. So I'll share that feedback with you in a concise manner. So you're going to know what the public is saying about your home. And then I'll advise you if there's any adjustments we need to make to your property to make sure we're getting the most the market's willing to pay at a time like this, okay? To maximize what you're getting out of it. How this benefits you is you're always going to be in the know with what's going on, and you won't have to go to bed wondering what is happening right now and where is my agent. Do you see how that, or can you hear how that may hit home a little bit more based on their needs? So there's two parts to this. Again, write down at least two of these actions that you do within these categories. And then within each of those actions, be able to say how this benefits you is, or why this is important to you is, ... And then I want you to fill in what the benefit is. Here's a neat thing, guys. If you put in the work and write these things out and review it regularly, doesn't have to be perfect now. You can fine tune it. You can reach out to me with this stuff and say, Chris, what do you think about this? Can I say this differently? You know, I'm having a hard time thinking through this action plan, what it is that I do in this category. I'm here to help. You're going to start to find that you're going to hear, and we talked through this morning and yesterday, we hear, it seems like a million different objections, but they're actually like maybe 3 to 4 different objections in this market, just worded a million different ways. And when we hear that objection or that need or whatever that hang up is, it's almost like a formula. You just naturally come in and you can be present. You're not nervous or filled with anxiety, like what do I say, and over talking and talking too much and still talking where they don't want to work with you, but you just naturally like insert that value proposition. This is what I do. And this can be in getting an appointment. This is something I do. I'd love to share with you more about my plan and my strategies to get your home sold for top dollar. When are you available? Right? That is going to hit home with people. Again, don't tell them about how great you are. Tell them what you do, and they're naturally going to be able to see how great you are. This is where they're going to choose you over any other agents out there because your language is different and you have a plan and they're willing to allow you to lead. Any questions or thoughts about any of this so far? Hey, sir.
Hi.
Hi. So Nick, Ashley, Marie, Joyce, what are your thoughts around this?
I mean, my thought, this is like, I've heard it before, and like from you, and this, it really, I've seen it in action now. So it's kind of great to hear it again. And like, it really does. It makes sense, and being able to help guide people in that is huge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it simplifies the conversation. It doesn't have to be a long conversation. It can be short, and it actually shows more confidence when you're to the point. This is what I do. When are we getting together?
Exactly. And I think at a certain point too, it becomes not just like I want to know what you do, but they're like, oh, I need to know kind of how that is going to benefit me, you know?
Yeah. Do you think when I found out that there's more to installing sprinklers in my yard, that I was probably thinking, what else do I not know?
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah. And it's so funny when you're having these conversations with people and you introduce some of this stuff, you can literally see their mind racing. They're just like, and their eyes start going around and they're like, oh, okay. And then you have the opportunity to say, I can tell you're processing this right now. What are your thoughts? Would you mind sharing those with me? And yeah. Anyone else, any thoughts or questions in regards to that?
Chris, can you repeat the homework just to make sure I understood it?
Yeah. So within those 4 categories, we started to define some of the things we do within those areas, right? What I would like each of you to do, and this is something you're going to refine over time, but begin within each of those categories, write down 2 things that you do, actions that you do. And then after each of those actions, write the benefit or how it applies to your client or the person you're speaking with. And that's where you should be able to insert the phrase, I do this, this, and this. How this benefits you is ... And I gave that example of, they expire. I say, I reach out to you every week. I follow up with people who come through to find out what the market is saying. And then I can say how this benefits you is, and this is based on their previous experience of not knowing. You're always in the know. You have someone that you can go to with questions, and you're going to know precisely what the market is saying, so we can make adjustments to either our marketing plan, your property, or the price to make sure we get the most the market's willing to pay for your home. And you're not waiting a whole another year, right, to get it sold. When you put it in that way and you can understand what the hot buttons are or the points that are difficult for people, they're literally eating out of your hand because they see you as that person that's saving the day. Finally, someone understands what we went through and has a plan that we need, rather than just talking about how great they are. Right.
Thank you.
You got it. Yeah. Anyone else have questions?
I don't have a question, but we've talked about value proposition multiple times, but I feel like this is the first time where I'm I guess understanding it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this Zoom. This has been really helpful.
Good.
Do you mind sharing? I know I asked about Keller Mortgage before and I didn't get to. Maybe everyone else might want to hear it too. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm gonna stop recording here real quick so I can share that part.